On the morning of October 17, 1967, somewhere along a muddy streambed in the jungle north of Saigon, two rifle companies from the 2nd Battalion, 28th Infantry, walked straight into a kill zone. The day before, they had found a major bunker complex near the Onthang stream and pulled back after a brief exchange of fire. Their battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Terry Allen, Jr., son of the legendary World War II general who had led this same division across North Africa, decided they would go back in the next morning and take those bunkers head on. What Allen did not know was that the entire 271st Regiment was already set in ambush positions, waiting for them to do exactly that. The Big Red One had been fighting in 3rd Corps for 2 years by then. 2 years of cloverleaf patrols, of hacking through triple canopy jungle, of walking roads that could kill you every 50 meters. And this morning was about to become one of the worst the division would ever see. But to understand how the 1st Infantry Division ended up bleeding along that stream, you have to go back to when they first arrived, because this was never supposed to be a short fight. Nobody said it out loud, but by the time the Big Red One was done, they would spend nearly 5 full years in 3rd Corps. Longer than any other American division served in a single tactical zone during the entire war. 5 years, from the rubber plantations to the Iron Triangle to the Cambodian border, and the jungle never once gave them a break. The 1st Infantry Division, under Major General Jonathan Seaman, landed at Vung Tau in July 1965, making them the first element of an American infantry division to set foot in Vietnam. The rest of the division followed in October, establishing their headquarters first at Bien Hoa, then at Dian on the northern edge of Saigon. 3rd Corps was their war now, and 3rd Corps was a nightmare of terrain and threat. The area of operations stretched from the outskirts of Saigon northwest to the Cambodian border. Practically every piece of significant ground had a name that meant trouble. War Zone C in Tay Ninh Province, War Zone D northeast of Saigon, the Iron Triangle, a dense pocket of jungle between the Saigon and Tay Ninh rivers that the Viet Cong had used as a sanctuary for years. And running through all of it, Highway 13, the only paved artery connecting Saigon to the northern provincial towns, a road so dangerous they called it Thunder Road. The VC 9th Division owned the jungle on either side of it, and they were not interested in giving it up. By the end of 1965, the division had already been tested. On November 12th, the 2nd Battalion, 2nd Infantry, under Lieutenant Colonel George Schaffer, was set up in a night defensive position near the village of Bao Bang, along Highway 13. They were there to secure the road for an ARVN convoy moving through the Michelin rubber plantation. The ARVN 5th Division commander had specifically requested the Big Red One for this job, because his own units could not hold the highway on their own. Consider what that tells you about the state of the war in 3rd Corps before the Americans had even been there 6 months. 2 full VC regiments, the 272nd and 273rd, hit Schaffer's perimeter in the pre-dawn darkness. The attack came from 3 sides. Mortar rounds walked across the position. RPG teams closed to within yards of the wire. The fighting was close enough that soldiers could hear the VC shouting orders to each other. Schaffer held his lines, called in artillery, and brought gunships overhead. By morning the attack had broken. 20 Americans killed, over 100 wounded. But the 2nd of the 2nd held. The VC left at least 146 dead in front of the wire, and probably another 50 whose bodies were dragged away. The battalion received a Valorous Unit Award for the action. That fight at Bao Bang told the division exactly what the next 4 years were going to look like. You go out, you set up, you hold your ground when they come at you in the dark, you call in every gun you can reach, you survive the night, and you count the cost in the morning. That was the war in 3rd Corps. Night after night, month after month. 2 weeks later, the 7th Regiment of the ARVN 5th Division operating in the Michelin rubber plantation was overrun by the VC 271st and 273rd Regiments. Most of the regiment was destroyed, possibly 500 ARVN soldiers killed along with their 5 American advisors. The Big Red One's 3rd Brigade was ordered to rescue what was left. That response mission, Operation Bushmaster 2, ran for 5 days in early December. It was the division's first taste of cleaning up after an ARVN catastrophe. It would not be the last. Now here is where the story shifts, because in March 1966, a new commander arrived who would fundamentally change how the Big Red One fought its war. Major General William DePuy was a Normandy veteran, a man who had watched the 90th Infantry Division nearly get destroyed in the hedgerows because its leadership did not know what it was doing. He carried that lesson like a scar. When he took over the Big Red One, he came in with one unshakable conviction. The term pinned down is no longer a part of the vocabulary of this division. Those were his words. He meant every one of them. DePuy believed in firepower over maneuver. His philosophy was straightforward. Use small units to find the enemy, pin him in place, then obliterate his position with artillery, airstrikes, and gunships. Do not send infantry into fortified bunkers if you can bring the bunkers down from a distance. He was not gentle about enforcing this doctrine. During his year in command, he relieved 7 battalion commanders. 7, when the Army Chief of Staff, General Harold K. Johnson, visited and told him he was relieving too many people. DePuy's assistant division commander fired back. "General, I had the idea that you were going to train them and we were going to fight them over here and save soldiers' lives." That tells you everything about how DePuy ran his division. And honestly, there was a brutal logic to it. DePuy admitted openly that beating the bushes looking for a fight was the only way to get a goddamn fight going. The enemy chose when and where to engage. The Big Red One had to patrol, find and force contact, then survive the initial ambush long enough to bring superior firepower to bear. Every engagement was a race against time. Take the hit, return fire, get the guns and the birds overhead before the VC could break contact and melt back into the jungle. That was the rhythm of the war in 3rd Corps. Under DePuy, the division launched some of the largest operations of the war. In April 1966, the 1st Battalion, 2nd Infantry swept through the village of Logo, near the Cambodian border, and captured a massive quantity of black cloth the Viet Cong used to make their signature pajama uniforms. The battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Prilliman, ordered the cloth made into scarves for his soldiers. From that day on, the 1st of the 2nd wore black scarves in the field. A small thing maybe, but in a war where identity mattered, where units needed something to hold on to, those scarves meant something. They meant you were part of something that had been tested. By the fall of 1966, what started as a routine search and destroy mission called Operation Attleboro turned into the biggest air mobile operation to date. It began in September with the 196th Light Infantry Brigade sweeping War Zone C in Tay Ninh Province, looking for VC base areas and supply routes feeding into Saigon. The operation was named after the Massachusetts town where the brigade had been formed, and for weeks it was a grinding, inconclusive slog through dense jungle. Then the 9th VC Division hit back hard, and the operation exploded in scale. The 25th Infantry Division was pulled in first. Their 1st Brigade under Brigadier General de Saussure ran into trouble almost immediately, sending battalions into the jungle on divergent axes with no link-up plan, poor understanding of the terrain, and command and control that fell apart within hours. The fighting on November 3rd was chaotic, with American companies separated and lost in triple canopy, unable to support each other. DePuy took control of the operation on November 4th, airlifting his division command post and a battalion from Dian to Dao Ting that night. The 1st Infantry Division, elements of the 4th Infantry Division, ARVN units, all got pulled in. By the time it was over, Attleboro had become a corps-level fight under 2nd Field Force. The operation uncovered 1,300 tons of rice and major supply depots. Documents revealed that COSVN's 82nd Rear Service Group was running a requisition network through local villages, using civilians to purchase food and supplies in nearby towns and deliver them to waiting VC carrying parties. It was an entire shadow logistics system hidden in plain sight. The cost was 60 Americans dead and 159 wounded, most of them from the 25th Division's units that had been mishandled in those first chaotic days. Attleboro was the first field test of the Army's search and destroy doctrine, and it set a pattern. Massive B-52 arc light strikes followed by helicopter and ground sweeps, sporadic contact, evidence of hasty departure, abandoned camps and vacated tunnels. The enemy almost always knew when the Americans were coming. January 1967 brought Operation Cedar Falls, and this one targeted the Iron Triangle directly. 30,000 American and South Vietnamese troops, the equivalent of 3 divisions, descended on a piece of jungle roughly 20 square miles in size. The concept was a hammer and anvil. The 25th Infantry Division and the 196th Infantry Brigade set up blocking positions along the Saigon River to the west. The Big Red One anchored the east side along the Thi Ting River. Then the remaining forces swept through the middle, driving whatever was in there against the anvil. The 1st Battalion, 26th Infantry, launched the opening blow on January 8th. The air assaulted into the village of Ben Suc with 60 helicopters, achieving complete tactical surprise. Within minutes, the village was sealed. Ben Suc was not just another hamlet. It was the political and logistical heart of the VC infrastructure in the Iron Triangle. The tunnel systems underneath it had been built over decades. Caches of weapons, rice, medical supplies, and intelligence documents were buried in every direction. The Americans found a requisition processing point for KSVN's supply network running directly through the village. Tunnel rats, soldiers small enough and brave enough to crawl underground with a flashlight and a pistol, went in after the VC, who refused to come out. That was the first major use of tunnel rats in the war. Over the next several weeks, the division's engineers brought in Rome plows, massive bulldozers that could shear through jungle, and began systematically destroying the vegetation and bunker complexes that gave the Iron Triangle its strength. When it was over, the numbers were staggering. 1,100 bunkers destroyed, 400 tunnels collapsed, nearly 4,000 tons of rice seized, almost 500,000 pages of intelligence documents captured, 700 VC killed, and another 700 taken prisoner. General DePuy called it a decisive turning point in the 3rd Corps area, a tremendous boost of morale for the Vietnamese government and army, and a blow from which the VC in this area may never recover. He was wrong about that. The VC came back. They always came back. Within months, the enemy infrastructure in the Iron Triangle was rebuilding. That was the central maddening problem of the war in 3rd Corps, and nobody ever solved it. You could sweep, rip, burn and bulldoze, and the jungle would grow back and the VC would come back with it. But Cedar Falls was real while it lasted, and the intelligence haul alone was worth the effort. Those documents gave American analysts their clearest picture yet of how KSVN operated. Barely a month later, the Big Red One was back in the field for Operation Junction City, the largest American ground operation of the entire war. 82 days in War Zone C, designed as a hammer and anvil to crush the VC 9th Division and locate KSVN. The operation included the only combat parachute jump of the war, when 845 paratroopers from the 173rd Airborne dropped into the operational area on February 22nd. Nobody had made a combat jump since Korea. The men who stepped out of those aircraft doors over Tay Ninh province that morning were making history, and they knew it. The concept was sound on paper. The 1st Infantry Division and the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment would drive east to west while blocking forces sealed the exits. The 25th Infantry Division, the 196th Infantry Brigade, the 3rd Brigade of the 4th Infantry Division, all plugging gaps and sweeping sectors, squeeze the enemy against the anvil and destroy him. The problem was that KSVN had already relocated across the Cambodian border. The VC knew an operation this size was coming. They could not miss the build-up, so they decided to make the Americans pay for every mile they advanced. The first major fight came on February 28th at Prek Clock, when a company from the Big Red One's 3rd Brigade was ambushed by a battalion of the VC 101st Regiment. But the bigger battles were still coming. On March 19th, Phase 2 kicked off, and the 273rd VC Regiment hit Fire Support Base 20 and elements of the 3rd Squadron, 5th Cavalry near Ap Bao Bang. The cavalry troopers fought from their tracks, pouring cokes and 50 caliber fire into the tree lines, while artillery carved up the approaches. 227 VC killed, 3 Americans dead. 2 days later at Sui Tre, the 272nd VC Regiment struck the 3rd Brigade of the 4th Infantry Division at FSB Gold. The VC breached the perimeter, fighting was hand-to-hand in places. But reinforcements arrived, the line was restored, and the 272nd was shattered. And then on March 31st came Ap Gu. In the early morning darkness, the 273rd VC Regiment and a battalion of the 70th Guard attacked 2 battalions of the Big Red One's 2nd Brigade at Landing Zone George. VC sappers blew through the wire. RPG teams hit the bunkers along the perimeter, but the artillery forward observers were already calling missions. Air Force fighters stacked up overhead. Helicopter gunships rolled in. The VC kept coming, wave after wave into the wire, and wave after wave they were cut down. 600 enemy dead, 17 Americans killed. 3 major engagements in 12 days, over 1,000 VC killed. By the time Phase 3 ended on May 14th, the operation had captured 810 tons of rice, 600 tons of small arms, and 500,000 pages of documents. COSVN was never found. It was sitting across the border in Cambodia. By the fall of 1967, DePuy was gone, replaced by Major General John Hay. The 9th VC Division had refitted, absorbing NVA replacements, and by September it was back in the field. That is what brought the division to Ong Thanh. On October 17, 1967, Lieutenant Colonel Terry Allen, Jr. led 2 companies of his 2nd Battalion, 28th Infantry, back toward a bunker complex they had found the previous day. The battalion was operating as part of Operation Shenandoah II. Allen was the son of Terry Allen Sr., the storied commander who had led this same division in North Africa and Sicily. The younger Allen had something to prove, and everyone in the division knew it. The VC 271st Regiment was waiting. When the lead element crossed the Onthang stream, the entire jungle erupted. RPGs slammed into the column. Automatic weapons fire swept through the undergrowth at waist height. Both companies were hit simultaneously from 3 sides. Men could not see 10 meters in front of them. Allen called for artillery, but the rounds were landing too close to his own men. He called for air support, but the canopy was so dense the pilots could not distinguish friendly from enemy. Allen was killed, along with his operations officer, Major Donald Holliday, a former All-American football player from West Point, and his sergeant major. 64 Americans were dead and over 60 wounded by the time the 271st broke contact. The battalion was destroyed as a fighting force. Among the dead, Terry Allen, Jr., killed in the same division his father had made famous. That is a weight that does not go away. In January 1968, Lieutenant General Frederick Wayand convinced Westmoreland to reposition 15 battalions closer to Saigon. When the Tet Offensive hit on January 31st, 27 Allied maneuver battalions were already in place. Elements of the division, including the 1st Battalion, 18th Infantry, fought to secure Tan Son Nhut Air Base. Major General Keith Ware established Task Force Ware on the first morning, taking tactical control of every American unit entering the Saigon area. Saigon was not fully cleared until March 7th. His leadership earned him command of the 1st Infantry Division. Ware had been drafted in 1941, earned the Medal of Honor at Sigolsheim, France, and was one of the first draftees to reach general officer rank. Under Ware, the division participated in Operation Ton Thang, Complete Victory, the largest single operation of the war, running continuously in multiple phases from April 1968, well into 1969. On September 13, 1968, near Loch Nanaim, Ware was overhead in his command helicopter, directing the assault on Hill 222. Heavy anti-aircraft fire brought the helicopter down. Ware, 3 staff officers and 4 crew were all killed. He was the first Army general killed in action in Vietnam. Major General Orwin Talbot stepped up immediately. By mid-1969, Vietnamization brought Operation Dong Tien, Progress Together, pairing the Big Red One with the weak ARVN 5th Division. Combat had not stopped. In January 1970, the 1st Battalion, 16th Infantry alone, ran 690 ambush patrols. On April 15, 1970, the colors returned to Fort Riley. The division had lost 6,146 killed and over 16,000 wounded. 6 commanding generals, 1 killed in action. 5 years in the same piece of jungle, holding ground that could never be permanently held. That last flag came down, and the jungle grew back.